started raining here a couple of days ago, and it just has not stopped since. It's gone from light to heavy and to very heavy, but it's just non-stop, and it's really starting to affect the quail in the backyard. Both cages have really flooded in parts. I've had to dig trenches where I can at night. I had to rush out there and dig a trench to kind of drop the water table because it was soaking up. There was so much water, there was like rivers running around the cage. Just so much water coming down. I live sort of on a hill that goes up, and the water's just running down from the property above me, and coming right down around the cages, with the water table soaking up through. And it's made it hard for me to get food to them, because any food I put out there gets ruined when the next storm comes through, and it gets wet and damp and ends up mixing with the dirt. So what I'm trying to do is get some fresh dirt and then build up elevated point, and then put some new bedding on top, and then at least it gives them somewhere where they can hide out, even at night, just somewhere they can sit dry for a bit, because the birds have been wet for a couple of days and some of them are starting to shiver, so they're really having a miserable time of it. Even my chickens that are in the yard, because I free range them, they are not happy at all. They're actually losing their minds. One of them started pulling its feathers out, and I can't get them to eat. They've just sort of given up. So I'm really struggling with that too. So yeah, it's just relentless. It just won't stop. I reckon it's been 3 days now, and it's probably going to go for another day. So I'm going to have to get back to work and try and get these quail somewhere dry, so I can get them through this period. I'm not too worried about the bedding. It was at end of life anyway, so I'm going to clear that out, and when it's finished, when the rain event has stopped, I'll clear that out and put fresh stuff in after that. But yeah, it's all about getting through it. These things happen. It's been raining non-stop for a couple of days now, and I have a lot of flooding starting to happen. The birds are even standing in it. So I have to drain this out. I'm digging a little trench to get some water moving. The rain just won't stop. Hopefully that helps drop the level that's building up in here. Water's building up between the cages, and I've had to dig a trench inside. It's coming through. Running past here. So much water. So I'm going to try and help out the quail. They've been in misery for quite a while now, and they just keep draining day after day. I've got some fresh soil and some mulch, so I'm going to build up some high ground and sit the mulch on top, and at least they can spend the night relatively dry, hopefully, as long as there's not another storm come through. Look at how wet they are, cold, shivering. Miserable. Alright. Just going to tip the soil over. Got a big mound of soil, it's a bit hard to see, it's getting dark. So you might be able to see it's elevated quite a bit higher than the water there in that trench. So they can sit up there tonight. Starting to gather around. Still raining, never stops. I have to give them small amounts of food because there's so much water coming in. If I put more, it just gets spoiled. Food is a mess. The trenches keep filling up. That food keeps getting wet and getting spoiled. And the quail are all wet. I'm going to try and form it up and then give them some new bedding so they can at least stand up on that dry. Problem is that even this got wet. It's hard to keep anything dry. And man, does this cage smell. That should please them. I think I just brightened up their day. It just keeps coming. There's water everywhere. I'm going to try and mound this back up again and then give them some shelter so they can get there for the night because it'll be dark in an hour. They're all wet. Wet and cold. I'll give them somewhere to hide under. Hopefully it gets them through the night. Still got to get the eggs. Finally stopped raining. I had some trees and things fall over in the backyard. Poor tree down. Quail have survived, but it's pretty awful. And they need some food. So with the lull in the weather, I am going to clean out the feeders. And if you know anything about quail food, when it gets wet, yeah, it's all getting brittle, this thing. This really stinks and it's no good. So I'm just going to tip that in the garden and then just wash it through the soil with all the water, just to at least nutrients will go into the garden, but they'll stop the smell, because that is horrible stuff now. So I lost a bit of food, but all things considered, no birds died, which is pretty amazing actually. Some of it's still dry, but I might leave it like that for a little bit, because the chickens will come along and probably pick up some of that, but the wet stuff they won't touch. And then I'll just wash it away. There's even bugs in amongst it, they'll love that. First bit of sun for days, and they're really enjoying it. All clustered around. So we've had a solid day of it attempting to dry out. We've still got puddles everywhere, which they like to walk through. They still prefer the high ground, but they've been wandering out as it warmed up, and they're dragging back all the mud, so it's not as dry as it was, but we're getting there and it's really starting to smell. So I'm going to do a big clean up soon. I'm going to try and clean out some of this muck, because there's more rain coming in the next day or two. So I'm going to try and get rid of it, because it really smells bad, and yeah, I just want to get out before it gets even more wet. So that's my plan. This is going to take a bit of time, and it's quite heavy, so it's hard work. You're going to find a lot of stuff while I'm doing this. A lot of bugs around, a lot of worms. Just a couple of buckets at a time. It's going to be slow going. High and dry and ready for the next storm event. The cleaning is still ongoing. I'm doing it in phases. I'm taking some out, some of the bedding out and dumping in the garden, and I'm just doing it as I go, because it's a lot of work and I'm just spreading it out. But we've had a couple of days of good weather, so everything's drying out quite nicely. The quail are happier. For now, the lessons learned for me is I need to create a raised area, higher ground, and have some sort of roof over that, so they're at a lower level, so they can get out of the wind, get out of the horizontal rain that comes in underneath. So that's what I want to do in the future, give them some protection. Hopefully, the forecast is saying there might be some storms coming, so I'm just hoping that they're localised and I avoid them, because I don't want to deal with the second wave. So that's my hope right now. But as it is, I've recovered and none of the birds have died, and it just shows how resilient these Coturnix quail are.